Welcome to this episode of Tech Threads. I'm your host, Max Watson, and today I'm talking with Brayden Haws, the co-founder of the Utah Product Guild and principal product manager at LeanTaas. Well, Brayden, welcome to Tech Threads. It's good to finally have you on after all of these episodes we've been doing for the community.
Thanks, Max. It's good to be here. I've loved watching all the episodes, so excited to do one.
Yeah, this is going to be great. I know everybody in the UPG community probably knows you and who you are, but could you kind of give a little bit of an intro, kind of like what you're doing right now and a little bit more about you to kind of give some context about what we're going to kind of talk about today?
Yeah. So I am a product manager at a company called LeanTaas. I'm the platform product manager there. We're a healthcare operations company, kind of like uh, air traffic control for hospitals. And so my team, we're managing all like the infrastructure. We manage kind of all the core components of the application that the other products use. Lots of data and reporting tools. Kind of all the stuff that you don't know where it should go goes to platform, and we figure it out and help all the other teams do what they do best.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I know today we were talking before we even started this about kind of what we're talking about today is kind of this product manager engineering collision that's kind of happening and how you're kind of positioning yourself to go more into an engineering role and how that could be like the future of just all product managers as AI continues to grow. Like, can you kind of give some background on like why you're kind of moving in this direction and kind of what makes you think that this is kind of going to be the future?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. Like I really started like learning to code just a personal interest. One of my really good friends and mentors kind of took a similar path like 10 years ago, maybe. He was a product manager and moved into engineering full time. And when I first talked to him, I was like, I don't want to do this for work. I just want to do this for fun. But doing it for fun, I realized like I actually really like doing this. I like this idea of like thinking of ideas, being able to build them and test them. And so I think like that it kind of molded from like my personal just like hobby project to actually like doing this. And I think as a PM, like there's a ton of benefit to being more technical. Like, I think there's like this saying of like PMs don't need to know how to code, but I do think there is a lot of benefit in it. Even thinking like before I had this role, like there's this old question of like, should PMs learn SQL or not? Should they know SQL? And I think like the big thing people talk about there is like, if you know SQL, you can be like self-service. Like you can go get your own data, do your own analytics. I think that's like the thing that gets touted. But I think there's another benefit of like being able to like know SQL and work with the database. Like you understand like the data model of the product. Sam Shillings, I don't know if you know him, but he was the founder of Google Docs. And now he's like the deputy CTO at Microsoft. And he has a good book. But like in it, he talks about like how a schema is basically how you map the physical world to a piece of technology. And so I think as a PM, if you understand like I'm working with customers in the real world, and here's how our product like thinks about the real world, there's a lot of power there as you like write requirements, as you work with engineering, and even as you think about how I'm going to add new features. So I think there's tons of benefit there. And then I think yeah, the more you know, uh, the more you can do. Like obviously like hands on keyboards coding, but also just like being able to contribute more to the company from a technical perspective.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially where like the PM's positioned to kind of be in the middle between the customer, the business, and tech. I feel like communication, especially like with us, I've seen that's when like the biggest errors kind of happen, the biggest mistakes is when you're trying to communicate multiple things. And like, yeah, maybe the PM who might not be as technical kind of misses on something and then passes off the wrong like requirements, the wrong specs, and kind of gives engineering the wrong idea. And there's just all these bottlenecks that can kind of happen from that. So I definitely like agree with you that, this is something that all PM should know. And I feel like we've seen like as if you like read articles or watch LinkedIn or anything like that, you kind of see this kind of movement towards PMs being more tech savvy. I feel like it's even advanced from like you were saying back when it was just like, hey, all PMs need to know SQL. So I feel like it's almost like full on coding now. Like PMs are kind of expected in some cases to like be able to read code and like commit things to the database, kind of like what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think when I started like I had like two failed attempts at learning Python, and then I finally got to stick, and like it was right before ChatGPT came out. So like at that time, like AI wasn't that helpful to me because like I didn't even know what to ask ChatGPT. I was like, I probably would have been very helpful if I knew like even what to ask it. But yeah, now today it's like a really powerful capability, both for people who like know how to use code, like we push cursor a lot of work, but also like so there's like this world where you can just like have AI do a bunch of stuff for you, like vibe coding, and like you have no idea what it did. Like it just built you an app. The app works, but if anything ever goes wrong, you're just like, well, I don't know what to do. And I think that's fine. But there's also this world where it's like you can still have AI do the big lift, but you are able to go in, interact with the code base, make changes, understand like what it's doing, and even understand like when there's patterns that you don't want it to follow. Like it writes a
Hmm.
function that works, but you're like, this is not how I think about functions. Let me change it to be like more aligned with the patterns I want. So yeah, I think it's like AI. This is a great time to be like even learning to code because you have like an always available tutor in AI that can like teach
Hmm.
you everything. Really exciting, I think, is Claude Code
Hmm.
Claude Code has like a learning mode now where like you tell AI what you want to do, and in the code base, it will like spec out to dos for you to do. It will be like, I wrote the to dos for you. Here's what you need to go implement. So it can like teach you the code. It's really cool stuff.
Oh, it's super crazy because I was even doing like an AI coding agent project a couple of weeks ago, and it was shocking how I was able to go from like no experience building AI chatbots or anything like that to like 4 hours later having an AI agent that can like write, read, delete, run bash commands, like do everything. And a lot of it was because of AI. I'd like to say, hey, do this. And I'm like, hey, explain it to me. Why is it this? And then, yeah, you can kind of tweak it a little bit. What has your journey kind of been like coming from like, PM, which you're like, I'm sure you're technical, but like not as technical to kind of getting more into it? What was that? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I think for me, like I took like an online Python boot camp, um, and the first like two times I tried to learn how to code, like I just like couldn't get it. Like I just like
Mhm.
it didn't make sense to me. And I think the big thing that made a difference was like this time I had some like ideas in mind of like things I would like to build. And so the class was like 100 days, but by like day 50, I was like, oh, I think I can start building this. Like I can start to like, and now like that's what really helped it click for me was like I had like real world things to like apply. It wasn't just like, a wall of code anymore. I was like, I can actually take like real concepts and build them. So I did that. I took another class after that that one of my like really good friends had put together. It was more of like a Python for like business data. It was more of like the data side of Python, like
Mm.
bringing in data, running analytics. That was also super helpful. And then I just started building stuff. I'm probably like most PMs. I had an Apple Notes with like 100 ideas in it. And I just started like, let me try this one. Well, this is stupid. Like, let's go to the next one. Um, and then yeah, at work, like I just asked, like, hey, can I start like helping take tickets at work? And like we have a great engineering team who was like, yeah, that's great. Like, and they've been good mentors, helping me get all set up and like doing code reviews with me, helping me understand like how, that's the other thing I'm sure Max, like every company's
Mhm.
code base is different. Like you could be using whatever, like JavaScript, Python, React, but it's like it looks totally different. And so like they've been great to teach me like here's how we do things. And so yeah, I think the big thing like there's this like internet meme of like you can just do things. Like I think that's like an overplayed cliche, but it's also kind of true of like
Mhm.
especially now with like AI where you can like learn anything. Like you could just start doing stuff and like figure it out as you go. And I think the other big thing is like you ask people for help, like they'll help you. It's
Oh,
just getting started.
100%. Yeah, I think even like a big because I'm an engineer right now, and I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions that kind of scared me when I first got into engineering, because I've almost been an engineer for like a whole year now coming out of college. And I feel like when people who aren't technical kind of start out, they just see like a wall of code or like a file of code and it like scares them. I think they're like, oh my gosh, like what is this foreign language? Like I can't understand anything. I see like a couple keywords that I understand, but other than that, like there's all this like numbers and like all these different things. Did you ever have that? And like what helped you kind of get over that hump, that first initial like push after like those first couple classes that you took?
Yeah, I think like the first two times I tried to learn, like that's where I was at. Was like you kind of like take the class and they're like, oh, here's how a function works. Here's how to print a print statement. You're like, oh, this is pretty
Mhm.
easy. And then you like go look at like a real like file of code and you're just like, this doesn't look like anything. But like they're
Where's the
like
print statements? Yeah.
it's like all the like all the pieces like are like all together at once and you're just like I don't know what's going on and it's like and this file depends on this file and this file depends on this file. You're just like I'm so lost. And I think for me it was like I worked on like a pretty big project to build myself like a daily like newsletter. It was like going out to the internet, scraping a bunch of websites, and then running it through LLMs to figure out like are these articles relevant to product managers? If so, like write a summary of them, then like write a summary of the entire thing. And so that was like really helpful because it was like I started from like an empty shell and started just like writing code for like, all right, I need to be able to get data from the internet. How do I do that? And I was just going to Google and being like, how do you scrape data? I think that's like, I was like, I think that's like a technical term, but like data scraping. And then, you get code examples, you modify them to work for the things you care about, and you kind of have that piece working. Like, okay, now I need to like send it to an LLM. How do I do that? Like, what's an API? Like, so that was super helpful of just like step by step, like building out these little pieces and then figuring out like, I've got like 10 pieces. How do I wire them all together? So I think it's like that, like, it's like anything else. You have to just like learn it step by step. Like, probably like anything else. Like, we were talking before about like your father-in-law's a doctor, your dad. Like, if you
Yeah.
just like went to the hospital the first day of medical school, you're probably terrified. Like, I don't know what's
Oh
going
my
on.
gosh.
But
Oh
it's the same
yeah.
thing. It's like you learn for years and years until like all those pieces come together and you can walk into a room and be like very confident to take care of a patient. I think it's the same thing with
Mhm.
like anything you try and do.
Yeah, and I think definitely just the do it, I feel like is a huge thing. Like we were kind of talking about earlier, how like yeah, in the age of AI, you can learn anything. Even like a couple minutes ago, we were talking about it, and I feel like with coding, it's kind of the exact same thing, especially with like tools like Cursor and Claude Code and even ChatGPT. Like you can just learn a bunch of things. Do you have any like tools that you used or anything that really helped you like push through that initial learning phase that you don't think a lot of people know about?
I think one is like definitely finding good mentors. Like I leaned on one of my really good friends and would just ask him, like, we were meeting like every other week, I think, and I would just show him like, here's what I'm working on, ask for help. Same thing at work, I ask the other engineers, like, I'm trying to do this, like, what do I do? And they've been very helpful, like both in like helping me like tactically, but more like from a strategic level, like here's how to think about the problem and break it down. Now, like today, I'm a huge Claude fan. Like I use Claude all the time. Um, I have like a really like specific for me Claude project of like I don't actually want Claude to write any of the code for me, like in like Claude like the AI, not Claude code, but like just like the chat app, because I want it to just like teach me like I'm trying to do this, like tell me how to do it, and then I want to go figure it out. Because I think it's like I'm very much like a learn by doing person.
Mhm.
That's been super helpful. Um, I I've been reading a bunch of books lately that are actually like really good. I'm reading this right now. It's a philosophy of software design, and
Mm.
it's like not really about. It's much more of like a strategic and like thought book about
Mm.
software than like here's how to write a print statement in Python. It's much more of like here's how you design a system, and here's like why like modules matter, and
Mhm.
here's how you like unexpectedly get complexity in your code and how to avoid that. Like, um, so yeah, I think like we've already said AI, but like AI is a great top. Like when I started out, I had no idea what to even ask to AI. I don't know if it was good enough to help me, but now Claude is awesome. I can ask anything and like learn. Um, and I think the other big thing that applies both for like learning technical skills, but really for anything is like the other big advantage of AI is like I think it helps you also uncover the things you don't know to ask. Um, so we did an event with Ibrahim Bashir a couple months ago. He came and spoke for UPG, and like I was helping him with a chatbot project. And one of the things we kind of like learned as we built the chatbot was a lot of times like you're as an end user, you don't know what to ask. And so like he had some really unique ideas. Like he had this idea of like product market flex, which is like his take on product market fit. And it's like no one would ever go to the internet and type in product market flex. You would never search for that. You never heard of it. But if you asked his chatbot about product market fit, he would explain product market fit to you and answer it. And also like here's a different concept. Here's another way of thinking about it. And I think that's been super helpful for me. And like AI is like really good at saying like here's a bunch of dots that like you don't even know about, but it will point them out to you, and then you can start diving in deeper on those things too. That's been a huge benefit for me of like helping me like learn the things I don't know to ask.
Right. And yeah, I think that's so hard too, because you don't know what you don't know. And I think having that mindset of like looking for things that you kind of might be in your blind spot is super helpful. I also really think that this is one of the things that you mentioned that I feel like a lot of people might fall into. And I've been reading some articles about how AI is changing the way like college students learn code. Is a lot of times like you'll have AI just generate a bunch of code for you and you don't understand a word of it. And that causes all these issues. And they think that maybe this possibility that like college students are going to have a hard time coding now because they have AI agents that'll make the code, but they don't understand it. They can't read it. And so they're saying the next big skill is like being able to read code that AI makes and like make sense of it. So I think AI, kind of like what you're talking about, seeing those dots, being able to connect the dots, like the architecture of it, like making sure it doesn't get too complex and kind of things to look out for. I feel like that might be a whole new skill that people might want to lean into over like just the manual actually typing the letters out to make the code. Is this actual like overarching like architecture of it, kind of like what you're reading about?
Yeah, I think the other thing is like you also have to just like know what things matter to you. So like there's some times where it's like I'm trying to learn about a new skill. I've been doing a bunch of like writing tests lately. I've built a bunch of projects. They all work, and I'm like I have no tests. Like my tests are like print things to the console, and I'll go see if it's not working. So it's like in those cases, like I don't want AI to write the code for me. Like I want it to give me like a pattern for like here's how you write tests, and I'm gonna go write them all so I can learn the skill. But other times there's like, I just want to test this idea out. I'll open Claude Code and be like, build me this thing, and it will build the entire thing. And I don't really care like what the code looks like or if it's good because it's like I just want to test the idea and be like, do I? So I think you have to be able to like find that balance for yourself of like, when am I trying to upscale myself versus like, I just need AI to do this so I can go test something. And I don't really care if it is done the right way for like the short term, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. Yeah, you kind of, yeah, I totally agree. And I think, I mean, do you feel like as a PM right now that people are kind of expecting product managers to be able to do kind of like that second part, like, hey, build something quick with AI to like test it rather than like actually learn it? Do you feel like that's something that product managers should learn how to do, or do you think it'd be better for them just to go straight into like, let's just learn it, learn how to do it, line for line? Do you think there's like a balance between that, or do you think there's a better way or approach to that?
I think like a lot of the balance is probably like personal like desire too. Like I'm super interested in like
Mhm.
technical topics. Like I want to learn them. There's other PMs who are super into like design. And so it's like they may not care about like writing code, but they want to be able to like be like a Figma master, or like some people are like super like 10x engineer equivalent of a PM who like they understand like the entire market, they understand the competitors, and they can quickly say like we should or shouldn't do this thing because of XYZ. Like so I think like there's that piece of like you kind of have to know like what niche you want to be in and like what interests you. But I think on the other piece is like we were talking in Slack, a couple of us were talking about how like the really great thing about AI as a PM is like it's going to automate away all of like the execution part of being a PM, like writing up the full PRD, writing up like the tickets. What it's not going to be able to do is like do like that top level thinking of like I see this like gap in the market or I see this customer struggle. I think we could do X, Y, Z. And that's where I think AI can also really help us. It's like I have this idea, I can quickly go test it, whether it's building a prototype, with code, whether it's in Figma, whether it's like an Airtable or something. You can quickly go and like build something with AI in a few minutes to say like, let me just go test this idea out and see like, is there even anything here? So I think AI is also going to help that way, where it's like it's going to free you up from like the daily grind stuff, so you have more time to do like the thought process and like value delivery part of being a product manager, which is like I think what all PMs want to be doing. Like I don't think any
Mhm.
PM loves like managing Jira.
Yeah, the Jira tickets are really fun to play with,
Yeah,
like as they organize them into their different sections.
yeah.
Um, as like a product manager right now, are there any like AI tools that you use that have really high impact that you think other PMs might not know about?
Um, I think like one of the like the tools we use at work that I think is really good, and there's probably like a bunch of variants of this, is like we use Notion AI because Notion AI has like your full Notion database, but it also has like connections to like all of your Google stuff, all of Slack, all of Jira. And so you can go in there and do so much. Like we'll get bug reports. And the first thing I do is just go in Notion and be like, is this a bug? And it will be able to tell me pretty quickly, like, no, this is the expected behavior of the product. Or it'll say, yeah, this is a bug, but there's already a ticket for it. Or no, it sounds like a bug. Should we make like you should make a ticket? And like here's the suggested thing to put in the ticket. Like so it's like really quick that way, but it's also great for doing like deep customer research because it has so much context. You can be like, I'm thinking about this idea. Like, have we done something like this before, or does this make sense? So that's a big tool that I think is like pretty interesting because like you don't really think about that way from Notion. Like you don't think about it as like this like deep research tool. You think of it as like
Yeah.
it's where you put all your documents. So we use that a ton. I think for me like both in and out of work, like um, I use Claude like all the time. I love Claude. And then kind of like my typical flow is like I will use Claude to do like deep research for me. Like I have this idea, it'll go do a bunch of research, and then usually I'll take that and be like, all right, take this research and write a PRD. Like I kind of use like the one AI output to write the PRD, and then I'll take that and go to Claude Code and be like, hey, build this thing. Like here's the requirements. So you can kind of like chain the AI together. And I think like the nice thing there is like it's same kind of concept of like it's doing all the heavy lifting of like go look at 100 websites and construct the content. And then as a PM, you're like going through it and being like, is there anything here? I think so. Like, let's make a PRD for this. And then you can read the PRD and be like, well, these two requirements don't make sense. Like, let's change them to be this. And then same thing, you can have it build it and you can be like, well, this doesn't actually work very good. Maybe this isn't a good idea. So I think those are the big things for me. I was like a big fan of Replit when it first came out.
Mm,
I actually don't use it that much anymore. Like they've gone like to the full like AI. They just want you to type in the chat box like
mhm.
what to build. When it was like more of like an IDE, it was great. So I mostly do like all my coding like locally on my own ID, like on the IDE now. But those have been good. And then like tons of blog posts, tons of podcasts I listen to just catch up on like what are other people doing because it changes so fast. Like what
Oh,
was like the
every
hot thing
day.
last week? Like people are like, don't do that anymore. Do this instead.
Yeah. It's like constantly changing. I think one of the things that really impressed me when you were telling me kind of about what you're doing right now at your company is just kind of like advocating for yourself as a product manager to like be doing tickets and like be committing things to the code base. Do you think like was there anything you did or is there any like recommendations you would give to product managers out there who want to kind of do that but just don't know how to get that ball rolling for them?
I think, yeah, I think a big thing is you obviously have to have some level of experience. Like, I think it's tough to be like, I don't know anything. Let me start. Like, I think that's kind of a non-starter, but like, I had been doing it for a couple of years on the side already. So I had some like projects and I had get like a GitHub with a bunch of projects in it that like showed some engineers to be like, even before I was like trying to do any coding at work, I was like, you guys just give me some feedback. Like, because I think that's the other hard thing is like when you're just building on your
Mhm.
own, you don't really know like you build something and the whole thing works and you're like, okay, I did it. But there's a bunch of things you just have no idea. Like, oh, you should be
Mhm.
like logging everything and you should be writing tests and you wrote like 1,000 functions. You should probably make a class for this instead. Like you just have no idea that like that's even like an option or that you should be doing it. So like, just
Mhm.
like getting that feedback was helpful for my own personal growth. Um, and then I think for me, like just being very like open, like probably depends on your company culture a bit, but like just asking people like, how could I do this? Like, what's the path for me to get there? And working, with your boss and other people on the team to be like, I'm really interested in this. Like, how do I do it? And I think at most companies they can help you like create a plan for like, here's how to get started. And a lot of how I got started was like for my team, I would just go and like read every PR that got submitted. Um, and it's not like I had any feedback to give, but I would like read it to understand like, okay, I was the PM. I asked for like these things to be implemented. I'm gonna go look in the code to figure out how did they actually do it? Like, how does this actually work in the code base? Kind of like I was saying at the beginning of like, how do I take these like real physical world requirements and like how do those become code? Like, how does the code actually like understand those things? And then yeah, I think after that, like just being able to like have a good team that will support you and like you take all the tickets I've done so far, like the smallest little things that like probably no one cares about or probably would take a real engineer like 10 minutes to do, but like it's a good learning experience of like how do you not break the app? You know, how do you like understand testing? And like the CD, like the CI process to it. Like, how do I actually like take this change I made and get it into the code base, into the main branch, and then it's going to go live in production? Like, that was the hardest thing for me. I think getting started was like understanding like how to work with other people. Because
Mhm.
when you're just doing it on your own, it's like, well, I could probably use a branch right now, put some stuff in and be like, I'm going to merge this branch. You don't really code review, you just like merge it yourself. And then it's like, sometimes you're like, well, I don't really want a branch. I'm just going to like go right to main and just like make a change. And obviously when you have a huge team, it's like, it's not how you do it. Like you have to understand
Mhm.
like the process as well. So that was a hard thing to learn was just like, how do you like, how does it functionally work more than like,
Yeah.
if that makes sense?
No, totally. I remember when I was like getting into like you go in college and you build these like projects. And when I first got into like the start of my job, yeah, just like seeing the actual workflow of like code from like ID like ticket to then like requirements, ideation, and then like actually implementing it. And then how does that work kind of with everybody else who's also making commits to the code base because we have like 30 engineers who will commit all to the same code base and every Wednesday we push things up. And so trying to like not break anybody else's stuff, but then have your stuff not break prod and then have it all go up. I just feel like that's one of those things that's hard to get experience in unless you're in like a team, like an
Yeah.
actual production code environment, which is tough. It's a hard thing, but I mean, it seems like
Yeah.
the route you've been taking is super beneficial.
Yeah, and I think like I'm just at the very start of this, but I've really like enjoyed it so far, and like we have a great team, so like that's been the biggest thing is like the team that'll help you. Um, and I think the other thing was like, also train of thought you were saying. Oh, I think as a PM, it's also made me like much more conscientious as I write requirements and think about the problems we're solving. Because like when you're on the receiving end of the requirements, even today, like I'm usually writing the requirements for a ticket, and then I start I'm like, what was I talking? Like you kind of see like the gaps and like assumptions that PMs make,
Yeah.
um, and like the vagueness sometimes that you put into like add this thing to the screen, and you think it's like very rock solid, and then like from the engineering perspective, you're just like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, and so it's helped me that way too, to be more thoughtful as I'm like working with my engineering team to be like, we have this big project. Here's the requirements. Do the requirements actually make sense? Both like, can you understand them, but do they make sense in terms of our product and like what we're trying to accomplish? So that's been like a huge benefit, I think,
Oh,
for
for
myself
sure.
and hopefully for the team too.
Oh, for sure. I remember even today, funny you mentioned that. We even got a ticket today where it was two lines. It was like, build this that does this. And there was like, we had to go sit down for an hour with this. We don't have like a PM necessarily. We have like team leads that kind of act like PMs and be like, okay, you said this. Like, what does this mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's a million ways we could take this by the words that you said. And then like after you talk to them, they kind of explain it and you're like, oh, so you meant like this. I could see how you as a PM learning how to code definitely helps with like defining those requirements a lot better and making it more like I guess understandable for engineers. As we kind of wrap up, do you have any last like advice or thoughts related to like how PMs can kind of get into coding, learn to code, or like anything else we talked about tonight?
Yeah. I would say like the biggest thing is maybe not even like about learning to code or being more technical. Like there's a lot of ways to become more technical without learning to code. I know John Fontenot took like a class, like a course through Skip Level that was all about like becoming a technical PM that wasn't about coding. Like there's so much you could learn about APIs and data integrations that have nothing to do with like actually learning how to code. So I think if
Mhm.
you're like interested in that route, there's a lot you can do without like learning to code, which I think is good. But I think like the broader theme I kind of see like going forward is like I think AI is going to, like I said, it's going to take away a lot of like the day to day like execution part of being a PM, like writing tickets, managing the like AI can do that probably already. Um, so I think for like PM, that's like it's a good time to step back and be like, kind of like, what niche do you want to be in? Like, do you want to be like the hardcore like technical PM, or like are you super design oriented and passionate about design, or do you want to be like the business like wizard where it's like I want to understand the business like down to the last detail of like how do we what's our revenue model like, what's the market like I think all of those are like viable, but I think it's like you need to have a niche because like the kind of broad just like I manage tickets and I touch customers, like I think a lot of that's going to go away. We're
Mhm.
not going to go away, but AI is going to do it much better than we can. So I think that's like the biggest thing I've been talking to other people about is like you don't need to become technical, but you do need some kind of niche that like makes you different than like the average PM, because I think like in the future the average PM doesn't exist. Like AI does most of that. It's all that's like specialty work that AI can't do, where like PMs are really going to thrive.
No, 100%. I think engineering, like we've talked about tonight, is one of those things. If you can get an edge on that, that can help you, especially in this new world of AI that we're going to be entering into. But Brayden, thanks for hopping on tonight. I'm glad we could finally get you on. UPG is doing great. It's such an awesome community that everyone that I've talked to just absolutely loves. So I'm excited to see where this goes. But yeah, thanks for hopping on tonight, kind of sharing your
Yeah,
journey.
of course. Thanks, Max. This is great.